Um, but it looks like you're out there in LA working for the Rams now.
Yes, working for the Rams. Got here in 2016 officially. So working community affairs and engagement. So it's a blessing. I'm a native Angelino, so it was good to be back home in Los Angeles.
Awesome. So we'll get that more in a second. We're
Okay, great.
here with former All-American running back from UCLA, second team All Pac-10, UCLA's all-time leading rusher, 4,000 career rushing yards, just a couple accolades, Johnathan Franklin. So as we were just saying, what's post-football life been for you?
It's been a blessing. A lot of learning and growing about who I am as an individual. After I left playing for the Green Bay Packers, went on to work for the organization as well as a rotational intern. Moved on to work for the University of Notre Dame in community relations, student welfare and development, and now going on my 5th season now with the Los Angeles Rams, and also have an opportunity to lead a small church here in Los Angeles, right? So really growing in my faith and blessed to be a part of a very, very unique organization and finding ways to really impact the community.
Yeah. You and I ironically work in similar lines of work, but sounds like you've been staying busy after you've been done getting hit a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Like football has taught me so much. There's so many transferable life skills that you gain from playing football, and I was able to just grow and build my network and have so many doors open, but also develop as a professional during the midst of me playing and during my playing years, when things that I didn't even recognize that now has transferred over. So it's been very helpful and grateful playing a game of football, but also building the relationships during my time as well.
So kind of tell me a little bit about how you made that transition, because there's a lot of players that they say the average lifespan of a player is about 3 years or so. There's not a lot of guys who look at the most obvious thing is, what have you been doing for the last 10 years? You've been playing football. Why don't I just transition this into a front office role? Or it's not even just working in player development, working in community relations, working in a different working a different aspect in that professional organization that isn't directly working with the players.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you make that transition?
Right. I was grateful to have mentors along the way that planted seeds that began to flourish years down the road. Even I recall when I was at Dorsey High School here in Los Angeles, our strength and conditioning coach, he was the former city councilman of Los Angeles, right? And he was the first individual that really begin to converse with me to think outside the box of just football. And what that led to is when I got to UCLA, I did an internship with the former mayor of Los Angeles during the off season. So then I start thinking outside the box, right? It's bigger than football, and then different mentors to just push me to just even build my circle of friends that are outside of just athletes, right? Are outside of my ethnicity. So I really began to just challenge my own perspective, my own ethics, right? To think the community that I was raised in, I began to challenge what I knew and to learn new things about life. And the transition of football, I thank God I am where I am right now. So I thought I was going to be in the NFL for years to come. And don't get me wrong, although I had positive people in my life, I wanted to play football. I love the game.
Yeah.
But when I was playing for the Packers, the 12th game of the season, I was returning a kick and suffered an injury, a spinal contusion, where I was left paralyzed on the field, believe it or not. Returning a kick, got hit, paralyzed for a few seconds, neck down, slowly got my feeling back, was able to walk off the field. They sent me into the locker room. Little did I know that'll be my last time ever in the NFL. So my transition hit me hard because it was unexpected. And I was in love with this game of football. I was in love with it. And when that moment was taken away, playing football was what's next. But also at that point is, who is Johnathan Franklin? To your point, guys play for 10 years. Guys dedicate their lives to football. And I was devoted to the game as well. It was my identity. I mean, now when I got done playing, even working out, it was like, okay, how do I work out? What am I working out for? Because I was always focusing on being the guy, playing running back. It was always very specific. So everything from top to bottom to my identity, my purpose, my life, it was in question. Who am I? What am I working for? What do I want to do next? And for the first point of my life, the worst point of my life became the biggest blessing, because I was forced to take a step back and look in the mirror and be like, Johnathan, who are you? And I was able to define that person and really create a vision board. Who did I want to become in life, and what did I want to do? What was my values? What was my passions? And community and the impact of those lives and politics were these consistent themes. And I was blessed for the Packers to reach out and provide an opportunity. And again, the journey took off from there and is still being written today. And again, as I mentioned, faith has always been a huge aspect. It's even more important than anything now in my life, So really been blessed was baptized about a year and a half ago, and just been sharing my faith and planting seeds and being a vessel for God.
It sounds like you were somebody who had a lot of influences to help set you up after football, that it wasn't just football or bust for you, because there are plenty of, I guess you could say, kids who come in, insert university, and they feel like they're going to play in the NFL, and they don't really have a backup plan of if that doesn't work out, or if you get there and something does happen, something catastrophic does happen, you don't get that 10-year career.
Right. It's interesting. I was grateful that I had the discernment to recognize the opportunities when it presented themselves. But because don't get me wrong, I'm from poverty in Los Angeles, grew up in the inner city, right? First one in my family to go to college. So for me, I didn't necessarily have the role models either, right? I didn't have anyone telling me to think outside of football. Even as a young kid, didn't have anyone tell me to go to college. But I was blessed that through this game, it brought people along the way to challenge my perspective, to challenge even my identity, if I realized at that moment or not, to plant seeds that along the way were watered and now I begin to sprout up. So I'm so grateful that I allowed the people to come in my life that has influenced me to become the man that I am today and who I'm becoming as well. So many times we can have people present themselves to us, but we have a choice if we want to accept them, if we want to listen, if we want to remember, if we want to even take the notes and live beyond just that moment. And I'm grateful that I've had the self-control and the understanding to listen, to pause, to embrace the humility and allow other men and women to come into my life and really challenge who Johnathan was.
So I want to transition a little bit back to your college days, because, I mean, obviously you were a really good player at UCLA. So, doing my research, it's been a little while since I've watched a UCLA game with you playing. One of the things that came up is that you had a coaching change in there. Can you kind of talk about the difference between Rick Neuheisel and Jim Mora, and maybe any of the challenges with that?
Right, it's interesting. So we had a different offensive coordinator each year of my playing career at UCLA as well. So
okay,
a lot of transition. I played, I believe, in 3 different offenses as well. Neuheisel was great. He was phenomenal. He was an excellent recruiter. He was a player's coach. And I really appreciated and still do appreciate Rick. He was really great. And he really contributed to the players' needs, right? Jim Mora, I think just with his NFL background, and Neuheisel spent some time in the league as well, but Moore was more black and white, right? Tight knit. He had a structured environment. Not saying that Coach Neuheisel did not, but it was just a different intensity between the two. I think they are both 2 great coaches that I love playing for them both. But Jim Moore also had the supporting cast as well, right? To help him in the success that he had earlier on. So enjoyed him, played for Coach Moore 1 year, had a phenomenal running back coach as well, Steve Broussard, that really helped me along the way.
So, for your first 3 years, you were pretty good, but your senior year, you exploded. 2,000 all-purpose yards, first team All-American. You racked up the accolades that year. What kind of clicked for you that year? Was it the coaching scheme? Was it the running back coach? Like, what changed that year that all of a sudden, you just exploded?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a lot of work and sacrifices, but first I have to give credit, right, to the coaching staff, right? Leadership starts from the top down, the offensive line and the wide receivers blocking downfield, right? The supporting cast that I had, but I've worked harder, I believe, than anyone on my team, anyone in the country. On Monday mornings, we practice at 7 a.m. I'll be at 5:30 a.m. running the stairs, running the stadium. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m., I would work out in the pool, right? So it was a consistency of just working. It was in the film room every day by myself. It was during the off season, not going out on Friday nights and running hills and working out. it was not partying throughout the year at all. It was not doing anything off the field. I was focused on the game. I was focused on mastering my craft and being the best version of me, right? I understood the ability to say no, right? When my friends and peers wanted me to be distracted to do other things. So I was grateful to have a maturity and a vision of who I wanted to become and not allowing anything to stop me, right? And just a lot of prayer, a lot of working, and I had a lot of accountability, right? Our quarterback, Brett Hundley, one of our DBs, Librado Barosio, we held each other accountable to make sure we weren't going out, making sure we were working hard, even in practice. Every time I got the ball, I took it to the end zone, right? It was this mindset that I developed that no one was going to outwork me, regardless who they were. And my work was going to bring my confidence, not my talent.
So senior year, you guys obviously had, you had the most wins throughout your 4-year career there. And the one that really sticks out to me is you guys beat USC finally.
Yes.
So what was that, end of your senior year, you're playing USC, you finally get over that hump. What was that like?
Right. It's one of those things that words can't explain, right? Again, my first 3 years, we lost to USC. In one of those years, I hate to say we lost 50-0. So
that one was ugly.
I appreciate you not bringing that up. We've been embarrassed, right? They've been owning Los Angeles at that time. It was my last year, and we realized we had to take the city back, the keys to the city, right? We wanted to own LA, and we were able to do that. We were able to beat them at home, at the Rose Bowl, in the rain, and physically, right, beat up on them throughout the entire game. It was a great game as well. They worked to come back toward the end, but no chance. None of us were going to lose, and I wasn't going to leave UCLA without beating USC.
Yeah, I mean, they were still in the shadows of, the Leinart Reggie Bush era. It was only been a few years removed from that, so it was still the identity that USC was still this powerhouse of, they were still living off their national championships. Meanwhile, UCLA, the last couple of years before, Jim Moore got there, you guys were not necessarily sputtering along, but, up and down a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's what you go to college and play for, the rivalry game. That's the one that you circle and you say, we want to win this one.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for UCLA. I think when I go back on why UCLA, to your point, there was an opportunity to how can we find a way to turn this program around, to be remembered, and it was a few guys from the city where we all committed together. And for us to be on the journey where we were 4-8, 6-8, and then turn that program around and make it to a bowl game, and then win 9 games in 10 games, you can look back and be like, wow, we were part of something special. And we were able to really, at that point, lay a foundation to be built upon. Although, things has changed. It was really unique to have some fun years being a part of that program.
So you kind of mentioned this. What stood out to UCLA when you were deciding on where you were going to go that, gave you the instinct, like, I want to play for UCLA?
Many things. First, the balance, right, of the opportunity to play this game of football at a high level. And it was interesting because when I was recruited as a safety. I loved it, right? And then, to be honest, when I got to UCLA, it was not working out for me. So they're like, hey, you need to go to running back. And it was 6 guys ahead of me. So at first, when I got to UCLA, I was like, man, this is going to be tough for me. It was challenging, but over just a lot of hard work and humility and prayer, things change, right? The journey began. But it was the athletic side, playing at a high level, but also academically. And then the diversity as well. I grew up in a community with predominantly African Americans. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to be able to challenge myself, my comfort level, and break the barriers and even the stereotypes that was shared amongst me growing up that I didn't want to accept. I wanted to learn about people. I wanted to learn about different cultures and ethnicities. And I believe UCLA was a perfect school to provide that for me. And it was close to home as well. I mentioned that I was the first one in my family to go to college. There weren't many people within my community that honestly were positive role models. So to be 15, 20 minutes away from home, to be at UCLA and to have a vision of, hey, I want to change the tide here. I want to embrace this platform to give people hope in my community. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity. I always believe that my journey even today is bigger than me. My life is being lived through me, but it goes beyond just Johnathan, right? And it goes beyond just my neighborhood, but anyone who has a dream, who has a goal, who has a vision, regardless of what your circumstances are, you can't achieve those. So it was many factors that played into my decision to go to UCLA, and it was the biggest blessing, one of the biggest blessings of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the campus. It's a beautiful campus. So
Absolutely.
beautiful campus. If anybody ever gets a chance to just walk around UCLA.
Yeah.
So transitioning a little bit forward here, let's talk about current. What's your current thoughts on UCLA right now, like the program where it stands?
Right. I lost a lot of captain. Have you seen in the NFL draft a few days ago? You have Joshua Kelly gone, right, on the offense. He just ran for 1,000 yards back to back. You have Darnay Holmes, right, one of the leaders for that defense, and it's going to be a lot of rebuilding. I think the focus point should be that offensive line. You think about DTR; he was sacked 34 times last year.
It's a lot.
Right, absolutely right. And throwing 12 interceptions. So I think he definitely needs some help, right? You have to fill that running back position with Kelly leaving and really find an identity for that offense, which has lacked these past few years, an identity for that team. I believe in Chip, he'll be the man for that guy, but I believe once, and hopefully they can get back together soon, given the pandemic and everything that's in, but it's extremely necessary for them to build that culture, that family, and that vision of who they want to be, right? Well, UCLA, the football team has lacked that identity. So I'm excited to see them develop that through their play, through their style, and winning some games upcoming. You're talking about 4-8, third in the Pac-12 South, and even giving up about 26 points per game. You're on the latter half of the rankings there, So the defense definitely has to improve, be more stout, and the offense has to put even more points on the board.
What do you think it would take for UCLA to be the quote unquote kings of LA? To really just set themselves ahead of USC, because USC kind of has more of the historical tradition, but UCLA, you can't sleep on them either.
Times and winning, right? And bowl games, and not just any bowl games, right? It's getting to the college football playoffs. It's winning a Rose Bowl. It's winning the national championships, right? You can't argue against championships, right? And that's how you build dynasties. That's how you build history. And it takes time to do that. And once UCLA turns the tides and wins 10 plus games consistently, but not just settle on being Pac-12 champs, but being national champs, I think that's when UCLA will be respected more. And I know that's the vision. I know it's an excellent school from every athletic club on that campus, but particularly for the football team, it's going to be winning some national championships.
Do you think the Big 12, or no, not the Big 12, the Pac-12 gets disrespected on a national landscape?
Let's be honest. Everyone loves the SEC, right? Every time you turn on the television, it's SEC when it comes to football, and rightfully so. They've earned that respect. I think with the Pac-12, it's just going to take again. You have to win games. You have to win bars. When we've had the opportunity to be in national championship games, we haven't won. When we had opportunities to be in the Rose Bowl consistently, we haven't always won. So it's going to take that consistency to when we're playing teams in the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the ACC, we have to come out victorious, and it has to be from the top bottom. You normally have your USC, your Stanford, and everybody else. Washington, right, has been on the rise in Oregon, but outside of that, you never know what team you will get. Even Stanford was up and down this year, right? USC was okay. So the entire conference needs to be strong.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I have a couple last questions here, and then I'll let you go. These are a couple little quick, faster questions. Favorite game you ever played in your career? I'm not going to let you say the USC game you won.
Taking my answer away, that's not fair. I would have to say it would be one or two if I can cheat. I remember my sophomore year, we Texas had just came off the national championship. They lost. They were number 7 in the country, and we went into Austin and we beat Texas, and it was phenomenal. No one thought we would win that game. Rick Neuheisel was our head coach. He gave one of the best pregame speeches I've ever heard. But to win with the guys on the road against UT was great. And then the second one was, I think you hit it on earlier, becoming UCLA's all-time leading rusher. true blessing, right? Coming from Dorsey High School and also representing UCLA, and still being on the top, and hopefully it stays there for a very, very, very long time.
Not looking for somebody to pass you, I guess.
Not at all. It's more than just a record, right? It's hope, it's opportunity, it's vision, it's work ethic, it's sacrifice that went into that. So grateful to be able to be the all-time leading rusher, but hopefully I stay that on top of that for a long time.
Best player you ever played with in your career? This could
Played
be
with,
college or NFL.
I would say, well, Aaron Rodgers, well, in the NFL was one of the greatest. At
That's
UCLA,
fair.
right? At UCLA, Xavier Su'a-Filo, he plays for the Texans,
Mhm.
or did. He's a tackle, but one of the most athletic guys that I've been around in my life. And honestly, maybe a running back. His name is Jordan James. He never got too much time at UCLA, but he was by far better than me in all ways. The catch, he was faster, he was smarter, he was more athletic, more talented. He was the greatest running back I've been around, like who has the full package, to be honest. That guy pushed me. He had me on my toes, man.
What about the best player you ever played against?
Wow. I would have to say probably Eric Berry.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fair.
right.
That's fair.
Yeah, he was a beast, man. He just had a presence where he was just around the ball. He had a nose for the football and very consistent when we played against them.
All right, last question, and then I'll let you get out of here. If you could have gone, or if you weren't going to go to UCLA and would have went to another school, where would you have gone?
To be honest, so my top three was UCLA, Cal, and Stanford. And I
You're looking at the education there.
love Cal, to be honest. And they almost got me on my recruiting trip. I almost switched and decommitted and went to Cal. But after talking to my family, I stuck through with UCLA. But absolutely love Cal. Enjoyed my trip there. Enjoyed the atmosphere, the team, the city.
Well, it seemed to work out well for you at UCLA.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate you taking the time today, Jonathan.
Man, appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and blessings to you, brother.
Yeah, best wishes on everything.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.